This is Mr. George, and today we are going to talk about something most men only understand after it has already happened to them. Something that sounds wrong the first time you hear it. Something that goes against everything you were told about how love is supposed to work. Here it is. The women who end up hurting you the most are never the ones you didn't care about. They are always the ones you valued most. The ones you actually tried for. The ones you made real space for in your life. The ones you thought about when they were not around. And the more you valued them, the worse it ended. Every single time. That is not bad luck. That is not you just picking the wrong women over and over. That is a pattern. And patterns happen for a reason. Most men look at this and blame themselves. They think they need to get better at reading people. They think they just keep choosing badly. So they try to be smarter about who they let in next time. And then next time comes with a completely different woman. And the same thing happens again. Because the problem was never which woman they were choosing. The problem is something that happens inside the relationship itself. Something that gets switched on specifically because of how much the man cares. Something that turns the effort he puts in into the very thing that eventually blows the whole thing up. Stay with me on this, because it goes a lot deeper than it first sounds. Let me show you something that makes this whole pattern easy to see right away. Think about a guy you know, or maybe think about yourself, who has been in a relationship where he was not that serious about the woman. He liked her. He had a good time with her. But deep down, she was not the one he was losing sleep over. Think about how easy that relationship was. He did not overthink his texts. He did not rearrange his whole week to make her happy. He did not sit up at night wondering where things stood between them. He was just relaxed, just himself, not trying too hard, not giving too much. And here is the strange part. That woman usually stayed interested. She put in effort, she chased a little. Things stayed light and easy between them for a long time. Now think about the same guy with a woman he genuinely valued, a woman he thought was something real, a woman he could actually see a future with. Gosh, watch what happens to him the moment he starts caring that much. He gets more careful about what he says around her. He starts paying close attention to her mood. He goes out of his way to make sure she is happy. He bends his own plans to fit around hers. He works harder at keeping this relationship going than he has ever worked at anything before. He gives her more than he has ever given anyone in his life, and she pulls away. Or she starts acting cold, or she walks out entirely. Or she treats him in ways that the women he barely cared about never did. You have seen this play out, haven't you? Maybe you have lived it yourself. The relationships where you put in the least effort lasted the longest. The relationship where you gave everything you had ended the fastest, and you walked away from it feeling like you must have done something wrong. Like you should have done more. Like if you had just tried a little bit harder, it would have gone differently. Here's the truth. Trying harder was never going to save it, because the trying itself was the thing driving her away. This is what nobody ever sits down and explains to men. When a man genuinely values a woman, when he actually cares, something shifts in him that she can feel right away. He becomes more careful around her, more focused on whether she is okay, more willing to let things slide to keep the peace, more ready to put her needs ahead of his own instincts. From where he is standing, this makes complete sense. You care about something. You take care of it. That is just how a decent man thinks. But here is what is happening on her side of things. The moment a woman can feel how much a man values her, something changes in how she sees the whole relationship. She is no longer wondering if he is really into her. She knows. And the moment she knows for certain, the thing that was keeping her pulled in starts to fade. That little bit of not knowing, that small gap between how much she was putting in and how much he was, that was the thing making her want to close the gap. The moment that gap disappears, because he has made it so obvious how much he cares, the pull she felt starts going with it. This is where it all starts to go wrong. Not with some big dramatic moment, not with her sitting down and deciding she wants to hurt him. It starts quietly, in small things. She stops reaching out as much as she used to. She becomes harder to make happy the more he tries to make her happy. She starts taking for granted the things he does. And the man who cares about her sees all of this, and his first instinct is to try harder, to do more, to give more, which makes the whole thing worse every single time. Now let me explain why this happens specifically to men who actually care. And this is the part that feels unfair when you hear it, because it is unfair. But that does not mean it is not true. Men who value women deeply are almost always men with a strong sense of loyalty. Men who take relationships seriously. Men who grew up believing that if something matters to you, you show up for it. You put the work in. You do not quit when it gets hard. These are not bad qualities. These are actually really good qualities in a person. But in a relationship, those same qualities create a specific problem. A man who is deeply loyal will stay even when she has started pulling back. A man who takes things seriously will keep trying to fix things even when she is already checked out in her head. A man who does not give up easily will put up with treatment that he should have walked away from a long time ago. And she can feel all of this. She knows somewhere in the back of her mind that he is not going anywhere. And the more sure she is of that, the less she values what she has with him. Not because she is a bad person, but because that is just how people work. We stop appreciating what we are sure we will not lose. The man who cared the most becomes the easiest person in her life to walk over, and eventually to leave behind. Let me get into exactly how this plays out in real life, because knowing the specific ways it happens is the only way you can actually spot it when you are in the middle of it. The first way it happens is through one person doing more and more while the other does less and less. It does not start as anything dramatic. It starts small and builds up over time. He is the one texting first most of the time. He is the one making plans. He is the one who remembers things she mentioned in passing and follows up on them. He is the one checking in after she had a hard day. None of that feels like a big deal at first. It just feels like being a good partner. But over weeks and months, something opens up between how much he is putting in and how much she is. And that gap does something to how she sees him that most people never talk about. The more he does without her having to match it, the less what he does actually means to her. Not because she is keeping score on purpose, but because effort that costs her nothing to receive stops feeling like it is worth anything. He gives more. She values it less. He gives even more trying to get back what they had. She values it even less. And somewhere in that growing gap, the betrayal finds its room to grow. The second way it happens is through testing that the man keeps failing without knowing he is even being tested. When a woman can feel that she has more power in the relationship than he does, something in her starts pushing against him. Not because she planned it out, but because a relationship where she already knows she has him no matter what stops feeling exciting to her. It stops feeling like something worth holding on to. So she tests. She picks a small fight over something that does not really matter and watches how he handles it. Does he hold his ground or does he fold just to keep the peace? She pulls back a little and watches what he does. Does he give her space or does he chase her immediately? She is short with him for no clear reason and watches his reaction. Does he stay calm in himself or does he get anxious and start trying to fix something that was never actually broken? The man who values her wants to smooth everything over as fast as possible. So he folds. He chases. He gets anxious. He tries to fix it, and every time he does that, she loses a little more respect for him. Not because she wanted to, but because the thing she was hoping to find, a man who stays solid no matter how she acts, is not what she's getting. And so the testing gets a little bigger, and he keeps failing it in the same way, until she stops testing entirely because she has already made up her mind. The third way it happens is through him slowly losing himself while trying to keep her. This one is the most painful to watch, because it happens so gradually the man usually does not see it until it is already done. He starts out as himself. He has his own opinions, his own routine, his own sense of what he wants from life, but piece by piece, he starts adjusting. He drops the hobby she did not seem enthusiastic about. He stops seeing the friends she was not that warm toward. He changes the way he talks about things based on what he thinks she wants to hear. He makes himself smaller and smaller, trying to fit around her in a way that keeps her from pulling away. And here is the cruel part. The more he shrinks himself down to keep her, the less attracted to him she becomes. Because the man she was interested in at the start had edges, had a life of his own, had things going on that she was not the center of. The man standing in front of her now has made her the center of everything, and that feels suffocating to her even though she could never explain exactly why. She starts to feel like she is carrying the emotional weight of someone who has stopped being a full person on his own, and she starts looking for a way out. The fourth way it happens is through what he puts up with once he is too deep in to think clearly. By the time a man is fully invested in a woman he values, his judgment about what is acceptable is not what it used to be. He lets things slide that he would never have let slide at the start. She talks to him in a way he would not have accepted from anyone 6 months ago. She makes plans without considering him, and he adjusts his whole week to make it work. She goes cold for days, and instead of addressing it directly, he walks on eggshells trying not to make it worse. He accepts less and less while working harder and harder to keep things together, and she sees all of this. Not always consciously, but she sees it. And what she sees is a man who has stopped believing he deserves better. And a woman cannot respect a man who has stopped respecting himself. She may not be able to put it into words, but she feels it, and that feeling is what pushes the final decision along. Here is what this whole pattern does to a man over time if he does not see it for what it is. He stops trusting his own instincts, because his instincts keep telling him to care, to try, to stay, to give more, and all of that keeps leading to the same outcome. So he starts to believe that something is just wrong with him at a deep level, that he is somehow not enough, that no matter what he does or how hard he works at it, the women who actually matter to him are always going to leave. That belief is not true, but it feels completely true after you have lived this pattern 2 or 3 times. And that feeling changes everything about how he moves forward. He either closes himself off entirely and stops letting anyone in, or he keeps going through the same cycle, just with more pain each time, because he never figured out what was actually driving it. What actually helps if you are a man who keeps living this? The first thing that actually helps is understanding that how much you value someone and how much you show it early on are 2 completely different things. You can care deeply about a woman without making it obvious to her from the start that she already has you. Caring about someone is fine. Handing someone your power before they have done anything to earn it is where the problem starts. Let her earn the level of investment you give her. Not because you are playing games, but because real investment should grow over time on both sides, not get poured in from one side while the other person figures out how they feel. The relationships that last are the ones where both people are working to close the gap, not the ones where one person has already closed it entirely before the other one has even decided they are fully in. The second thing that actually helps is keeping your own life real and full no matter how much you like someone. The man who has things going on, who has a life she is joining rather than a life that is now built entirely around her, is the man who stays attractive to her over time, not because he is being cold or hard to reach, but because he is a full person, and full people are worth holding on to. The moment you make one person the whole center of your world, you stop being that full person, and that is the moment things start going wrong, even if it takes a while for you to see it. The third thing is learning to spot the moment when you are trying harder because she is doing less. Because that is the moment the pattern has already kicked in. A good relationship does not feel like you are constantly pushing uphill. It does not feel like you are working harder each week to get the same response you used to get without trying. When you notice that you are putting in more and getting back less, and your response to that is to give even more, stop. That is the pattern running, and the answer is never to give more. The answer is to step back and let the gap show for what it is. The fourth thing is the hardest one. Staying yourself no matter what. Not changing your opinions to fit what she seems to want. Not dropping your life to make more room for her. Not letting her treatment of you on a bad day become the standard you accept going forward. The man who stays himself, who holds on to what he thinks and how he lives, and what he will and one not accept, is the man she stays interested in. Not because that makes him cold, but because it makes him real. And real is what keeps a relationship alive after the first few months wear off. For men living this right now, if you are in the middle of this pattern and you can feel it happening, here is what you need to know. The answer is not to love her less. The answer is not to stop being the kind of man who tries and stays loyal and takes things seriously. Those things are not the problem. The problem is that those things need to be built on a foundation where you are still a full person. Still someone who knows what he will and will not accept. Still someone she is not entirely certain she already has. That foundation is what makes everything else work. Without it, all the effort and care and loyalty in the world just feeds the pattern. Your need to value someone deeply is not a weakness. It is actually one of the best things about you, but it needs to be aimed at the right situations, at the right time, toward women who are actually matching what you are bringing, not poured freely into every relationship the moment you start feeling something. The man who knows when to open up and when to hold back, who can feel a lot without showing his whole hand before it is time, that man does not keep living this pattern. He breaks it, and the relationships he builds from that place last in ways that the ones built on too much, too soon, never could. Final thought. The women who betray you are not always bad people. Most of them are not. They are just people who responded the way people respond when they are handed more than they earned before they were ready for it. That is human nature. It is not going away. The only thing that changes the outcome is you. Understanding what you are doing that feeds this pattern and deciding to stop doing it. Protecting your investment the way you would protect anything else that matters to you. Not by caring less, but by being smarter about how that care shows up, when it shows up, and who it goes toward. Peace is not the only thing a man needs to protect. He also needs to protect his sense of his own worth, because the moment he stops protecting that, everything else follows. And the woman he valued most is always the one standing at the end of it, walking out a door he held open for far too long. Drop a comment below. Have you lived this pattern? Did you see it while it was happening, or only after it was already done? Subscribe, because this channel keeps going into the real reasons modern relationships fall apart. Not to point fingers, but to actually help men understand what is going on and what to do about it. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and know what you are worth.